DeAndre Eden left, right? And remember how we talked about he would always speak in the team huddle before the game. So Leo actually asked me to speak in the team huddle before now instead of Yedlin, which is
Really?
obviously a huge honor for me, right? I was like, he came up to me in English, said this again in English. He was like,
Yo.
you speak in to the team." I was like, "Yes, okay." And the game against Nashville, the second leg, obviously I did that there as well, and I said something in Spanish,
Like to
which
say, just to clear the whole thing up, we now have a situation where Lionel Messi is telling you in English to give a pregame speech, which you are then delivering in Spanish.
yes.
Welcome to the Player Manager Podcast. I'm Zealand, the football manager YouTuber, and he's Julian Gressel, the player for Inter Miami. And this is the one weekend out of every weekend that either of us have ever lived that I actually ran more than Julian Gressel. That's it. That's the whole podcast. I just wanted to get that out into the world. I'm very happy. Yes, I ran a half marathon. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Congratulations.
I know. I don't know how you guys do that sort of thing every weekend. I still can't feel my legs. Do you have any tips about how to like get the pain to go away?
Honestly, just time, sleep, ice baths if you're into those types of things. But hey, I'm sore 2 days after games as well, so it takes some time. That's just the way it goes. That means you've worked hard, and you deserve the little cheat meal. I hope after that, and
Oh,
all the cheat beer and all that type of stuff.
I did. I went to Cane's Chicken today. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but if
I
people have
have,
heard of
yes.
Cane, yes, if you have heard of Cane's Chicken, that sauce, oh, oh, absolutely the best. But we have a bunch of great stuff to talk about today that doesn't have to do with my aching muscles. We've got Lionel Messi's potentially aching muscles as well. Anything that we can learn about that from his teammate and basically his best friend at this point, Julian, I'm sure. But also, there's one almost more important thing that you can do, and that is something that will 100% improve your life. It's a guarantee, personally, from me. You can trust me. That is to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcast. You can subscribe and follow, and your life will just be better. I promise.
That's it. And let us know how we do. Give us a comment, follow us, and yeah, I don't know if I talk too much. Let me know. If Zealand talks too much, let him know too, please.
Yeah, he probably does, doesn't he? We also have a TikTok, we have an Instagram, we have a Twitter or X or whatever. All of those are out there, and we are actually going to get to some of you guys' questions that you've asked on Instagram at some point in this podcast. We'll see where the wind takes us, but the wind is first carrying us to what happened this weekend, because you actually were in the position where you got to replace Lionel Messi because he is down with an injury at the moment. And is that a sentence you ever thought you'd hear about yourself? You replaced Lionel Messi in the lineup?
Everything about this is surreal. Everything about this year is surreal. About me being mentioned the same name as Messi is surreal. So, yes, that is. Oh no, that is not something I had ever imagined that I would replace him. But I honestly still prefer playing with him together. So the replacing part will hopefully limit that to only a few occasions.
Yeah. Well, you took care of business though. You guys were able to pick up a big win, 3-1. Luis Suarez continued to be completely washed, like all of his critics said, with 2 goals.
Luis Suarez, class is permanent. Time and time again, when everything is against him, he chips the goalkeeper.
And what were your big takeaways from a game against a team that was is one of your former teams, actually, DC United?
Yeah, it was a game that showed that we can do it without Leo. There's a way. So we found a way to win. Obviously, I think a tough game to go and play. We've had some tired legs. I'm not going to lie. I think with the Concacaf Champions Cup and playing every 2 days, it's not easy. And then going on a flight and flying and playing away against a team that had some confidence from the beginning of the season wasn't easy. But after the first 20, 30 minutes, we kind of settled nicely into the game and were able to ultimately come away with a victory. And yeah, like you said, Suarez comes in off the bench after getting a little bit of a rest for the first 60 minutes. 30 minutes is enough for 2 goals, and we were able to obviously win and stay on top of the table, which is nice.
And this is at least when it comes to CONCACAF, something that a lot less teams deal with, as well as those midweek matches. So what's a challenge, and is there something you've noticed yet? Obviously, because you've had a couple of midweeks in a row where a lot of the other teams in MLS, just because there aren't as many continental competitions as CONCACAF, let's say, Europe, where it seems like half of every league, at least at the top levels, playing midweek matches.
Yeah.
Like, are you noticing like, oh wow, we really had to rotate today, and they seem a lot fresher? Can the team not press as much, or what dynamic does that play into it?
Oh, definitely. There's a ton of dynamic that plays into that, where you try and manage the game in different ways at times, and you don't want the game to be so back and forth, to be so open, where you have to chase a lot, or you have to obviously go, just make a lot of runs, high intensity runs, where that certainly is something that you manage a little bit, or you try and manage a little bit. You try and control the game better, which is tough when you play against a team like DC that like to be intense, that like to go out on the run, and that kind of have a former Red Bull coach, so he likes to get after you in a sense. But like I said, after the first 20-30 minutes, we kind of settled in pretty nicely, and we're able to control that much better. But you get comfortable just recovering, and that's really the key to recover in between games. There's not much training. There's more mental demand than physical demand in between games, because you just try and save your energy. Simple as that. Probably the first couple days, the last couple days before the half marathon. Did you do any training then? Probably not, right?
No, you're supposed to do something called tapering, which I didn't really understand what that was. Tapering to me just meant that I didn't have to do anything. I don't know if I understood that entirely correctly, but from what you're telling me, I actually did that part right. You just, relax.
Yeah, you relax, you save your energy, and then when it's
Oh,
go time, it's go time. Maybe we can
yeah,
have
yeah.
a sports scientist on this podcast eventually,
I that would be
and
really helpful, because
who can tell
I
us.
didn't I didn't know the human body could cramp up as much as I did around mile 11. That was great. Yeah, you pulled out. Here's one of the things I didn't know about those kind of road races. I don't know if you've ever run like one of those city like half marathons or something, but I pull off to the side. Right, I've been running for 11 straight miles or whatever, which I know how absurd that sounds. A year ago, I couldn't run a 5K, so we're making serious progress here. But I pull off to the side, and there's like the barricades, and there's a bunch of people up along the side of the barricade, and I'm like trying to stretch my calf. I like put my foot up on the barricade, and I'm like trying to pull it. And it's St. Patrick's Day, so there's some drunk dude just sitting up on the barricade, sunglasses on, like, come on, man, why aren't you running? You trained for this, man. You gotta put. I'm like, unless you've got like a saline IV, dude, I'm not moving for the next 5 minutes. So you can shut up. Like, they're like, this dude's 12 Guinnesses deep on St. Patrick's Day, trying to fire me up to run. My calf is pulled up like a drawstring bag. It's cramping up so bad. But
That's but that's good. At least he's encouraging you to run. For me,
it's
when we
true.
play away, they're discouraging us. When
Oh,
they're
wait. Some like that happened in DC. What happened? Some happened in DC.
yeah, I think some of the fans booed me, which
How
was
dare
very
they?
interesting. So for the listeners who don't know, right, I played for DC United for 2.5 years, from 2020 all the way up until midway through 2022, and didn't have the most success there, but also felt like I made a good connection to the fans, and felt like I've always given the most that I possibly can. Now the first time I was back at Audi Fields, I went over to a corner kick, and a lot of the fans decided to boo me, and I was like a little bit like, wait a second, what's going on here? What did I do? I got traded out of the blue. I didn't ask for a trade. I didn't want to leave. Nothing. I was there, putting my head down, ready to work, trying to have success, and now they're booing me. So I'm guessing half of the people that were there didn't even know that I was a player for the team, and they kind of just booed in the general direction of a pink jersey, which I happened to be in. So I guess that was the case. But I also heard some cheers, so that was kind of nice, about like, hey, thanks for all your time here. So that was also nice to whoever did that. But
Yeah.
certainly interesting to hear the boos.
that one dude rocking a Julian Gressel DC United jersey that just goes, "Hey, I always liked you," over the course of booze. That'd be nice. So,
Yeah.
so what's your approach to that? I know some players, when they're especially like taking a corner and they're getting booed, do you really try and ignore it, or do you kind of look back and laugh, or like, you know, I mean, I saw one player in England, they went to the corner flag and they were getting booed. It was like non-league, and they took a bow towards the crowd. I know that's probably not your style, but does it even go through your mind, or you're like, I'm just going to take a great corner and get out of here?
Yeah, you hear it. I think I would be lying if I said I didn't hear it, but I would usually just smile it off. I think I know that it's coming by now. I know that there's people out there that, like you said, have probably had a few drinks too many, a few hot dogs too many, sitting in the stands. They could never
Yeah.
even run a mile, in a sense. And so I try and take the high road, just get on with it, and focus on the game and focus on the corner or throw in or whatever it is. But there's actually one funny moment where I think that was the only time I ever reacted, and that was at the New York Red Bulls
Ooh.
in New Jersey, which is the game coming up now. But I think it was like, I want to say it was like the first or second game back with fans after COVID. So I obviously you don't hear that for a long time. So there was one guy just saying, "Hey, Gressel, f you," as I like run to the corner, just like a simple and straight up quiet stadium, and you could just hear it, and I was just like, I
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
chuckle, and I was like, oh man, it's good to have fans back, and I just gave him a thumbs up. That was just yeah, that was I thought it was a funny moment about kind of having fans back in that sense. So it's good to obviously, yeah, let them have
Yeah.
their moment, I guess. But some things are also very, very difficult to hear because they're not very nice. But I'm not going to say what that is, and we're humans at the end of the day. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm. Oh, I will. I saved one just for the occasion, actually. Because I get so I don't get it in person, right? You get it in person, and
Yeah.
that just changed the dynamic. But
Well,
I get YouTube
I also
comment.
I also get it on
uh,
Instagram. Don't
Oh,
get me
yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
Okay. So you're getting it virtually and in person, right? I just get it virtually, but I got one. I don't know. I saved this because I figured it might come up and it would be funny. So this is on I for a lot of YouTube videos I make. Some of them are just stories about the world of football or what have you. And
Yeah.
this was on one of those where it just like cuts to literally what if you're watching this podcast, what you see right now, me sitting in this room talking to you about whatever. And the comment was, the video was good, but please don't show yourself. Yeah, we're just warming up. The massive amount of your head while talking is straight annoying. Then looking at your weird shaped head is horrific. It looks like a light bulb. And on top, your hairline is an effing joke. Man with light bulb head, you are effed when you are even balding more. Please never show yourself again. Now, I am very aware of the fact that I've got about 5 to 10 years left in this hairline. So I joke about that on stream all the time. That's not something that bothers me. But I have never been called a light bulb head before. I thought that was creative. And that was the sort of thing that's a thumbs up sort of comment, and that like I don't even yeah, it's deranged. Maybe that was just somebody on St. Patrick's Day got rocked and was watching YouTube and was like, you know what?
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's funny, but at the same time, it's like, come on, don't want
No,
to know what that guy looks like.
yeah, no, I think that's an interesting part of it. Is I've talked about this with other people that end up in the public eye for whatever reason, whether you're an athlete or whether you're making content, you end up in the public eye. There's a certain point where people stop talking to you and they start talking about you, even when
Yeah,
it's like under, like I'm sure you get this on Instagram, like you post a picture and instead of it being like, "Hey Julian, great game," it's like, "Wow, Julian played a great game today," even though it's a comment under your Instagram post. And it's the same thing with the bad stuff where they'll just start talking about you,
yeah,
but in the third person. Like they're talking to other people about you, even though you're still right there. I don't know what
yeah.
that line is, but it always makes things so much weirder. I don't know.
Well, it's
Nobody,
just
nobody.
because it's the internet, right? The faceless interaction. You have no clue of who this person is, or if it's even a real person, or how old the person is. Like, they might not have any idea. Might not be as, I don't know, educated as us two, and all these things that play a big factor. So, yeah, it's some of the stuff you read, you shake your head at, and some of the stuff, like I said, it also, you get a little sensitive almost, and you get a little pit in your stomach, or something that certainly hurts, especially when it's about your family or something like that. But
Yeah.
um, those types of things certainly aren't the nicest things, and I'm pretty loose with my block and delete button as well. So um, I feel like you got to do that at times.
That's fair. I might be I might be a glutton for punishment. I've actually never blocked somebody on Twitter before or on any
Okay.
social media.
Well,
I don't know why. I think now I'm on such a long streak that I never want to. I should have not said that out loud because that's going to fire up a bunch of people to return honestly, it makes you yearn for the classic dude that just, reminded you that COVID was over by just saying, "Hey, Gressel, F you." That's a real
yeah.
classic. That is playing the classics. I respect that. No,
Yeah.
the internet's bad that way, but it's just something we have to live with, I guess. Us and our incredibly famous podcast, right, Julian? That's what we're doing.
That's right. That's right. Well, we are talking about probably one of the maybe the most famous person in the world, right? Mostly.
Have you found that like the amount of vitriol and the amount of like the amount of animosity you've encountered in person and online, and the amount of like compliments you've encountered, has that increased a bunch since you signed with Inter Miami?
Yeah, 100%. Everything is more. You're under. Yeah, you're under a microscope in a sense, and that goes to your playing. That where now people see me that have never watched me before, that don't know my game. In the beginning, that people weren't really accustomed to that. Now they're obviously getting a sense of, the highs are very high and the lows are quite low. So you can definitely sense a wider range there. Where I think after the game against, who was it against? I forget, but when I had the 2 assists to Suarez, I was like, oh my God, what a great player, amazing, all these things. But all the weeks before where I didn't or hadn't had any assists and, didn't show up on the score sheet, more invisible in that sense. But still, I thought I played pretty okay and pretty good still. Then you're like, what is this guy doing on the field? He's a clown. Well, does he get to play with Messi? All these types of things. So certainly, yeah, you certainly feel that. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I think everything we do is under a microscope. That is from our away games, our travel. When we go away, there's a ton of people watching us. That's why we have so many security measures, and that's why we can't fly commercial. That's why we have to fly private, all these types of things. And it wouldn't even be possible to fly commercial with Leo, I think.
When was the last time you think Leo Messi did fly commercial?
Oh, my Lord.
Was he like 15 years old or something?
Yeah, probably
like actually
from Rosario to Barcelona. Back when he was, when did he sign? 16? 15,
I think
something?
he was 13. When was the
13,
napkin? Because there's that story. He's
yeah.
like signs the contract on the napkin and then he just whisks away to Barcelona.
There's an interesting task for our listeners, right? Find the last flight Leo Messi was on commercially.
I'm sure the people that are in charge of like Elon Musk's flight tracker can figure that out. Whoever's very good at that stuff. But I imagine traveling with a team. We've talked about this a little bit before. It's like traveling. You're like part of the Beatles almost. Like you've obviously been in the MLS with, Lionel Messi, Sergio Busquets, Luis Suarez, and you've been in the MLS without those guys. What's the difference between the travel in those two situations?
The difference, I mean, ever since COVID, every team flies charter. So that has been the case, that every away trip and every team flies a charter travel. I don't know. I don't think that'll go back again to commercially. I think that the league is past that. But you can definitely sense that, with us now, there's more security personnel. We have a police escort from airports to hotels, from hotels to trainings, from hotels to the games, and then from the games to the airport. So we have, police escorts with us all the time. And, there's a traveling party traveling the day before we actually travel to make sure that everything is set up at the hotel. There's security personnel. When we get there, we go through the service elevators. There's security personnel on our floor 24 hours in the hotel. So There's certainly more measures in that sense where we're not as accessible as other MLS teams. I want to say I can still go out and get a coffee somewhere and leave the hotel, but some other guys on our team obviously can't, and because that would obviously everybody would go nuts. But there's always people outside. There's always people waiting and trying to see what's happening. But you can definitely feel the excitement in the cities that people have when we go and play, and that was the case in DC. That was the case in LA where we were. Obviously, preseason we've talked about that, where in El Salvador it was absolutely nuts, for example. But yeah, those and I don't think that'll slow down. I think the amount of the amount of people they touch and they touch with their game and with what they've done throughout their career, especially Leo, obviously is insane. But all the other three also get just enough love too. So it's definitely different than other teams, but also quite manageable in a sense where the club does a good job of keeping us away from the general public.
And that mania is obviously been really, really intense around Leo Messi, because it's intense about any team that he's around. But because of all the games, and then the fact that he gets hurt as well, which kind of just happened, he's not going to play in every game. So what's it like like when you're inside the team and everybody's buzzing around the hotel and paying $300 for a ticket or whatever and flying in from the other side of the country because this is their one chance to see Messi? What do you experience inside the team when all of a sudden the news breaks like, oh, he's not playing, or like Suarez and Busquets, or what does it feel like when that happens?
I mean, for me, I don't really have too much of a sense of kind of what is actually happening because I'm just trying to get ready for the game, right? Like for me, it's different. It's either he's training or I know that he's playing. Like again, before DC, I knew he wasn't going to play, so I'm just kind of like preparing for a game without him, which is obviously different than with him because of kind of who he is and how much he brings to our team in terms of quality and everything. But um, now we obviously knew that we had played 2 days before. We knew that we were going to rotate a little bit, so it's a different preparation in a sense anyway. Where we didn't start with Jordi Alba, we didn't start with Luis Suarez either. So that requires a little bit more, I think, more preparation, more talking about it with some younger guys that start that maybe haven't been part of the team before. So, and that's kind of where my role kind of comes in a little bit more of a vocal guy for those guys that has MLS experience that is trying to make them feel as comfortable as possible, is trying to get them to show them how important they are to the team, right? Like David Ruiz, for example, comes in as a right back now and plays a really good game. Hasn't played a ton before, plays out of position, but plays a really good game for us and makes a big difference in a sense, right? Or you talk about Diego Gomez or Leo Campana, who obviously backs up Luis Suarez. And it's not an easy job at times when you know that you have this guy playing all the time and then you kind of have to wait for your moment. And now all of a sudden he makes a big impact, obviously with a goal and an assist. And so that's kind of where I see my role kind of coming to life a bit, right? Of like, okay, now we got to get these guys going and we got to make sure that we don't miss a beat, right? If we want to be a top team, we got to win those games without him. And, we were able to do that, thankfully. And that's the challenge against Montreal, for example. It was a challenge where we weren't really up for the task. We couldn't find a way to win. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves throughout the year, but I'm certainly excited to kind of see those young guys kind of step into those roles when it's the time.
So it's interesting. It's like when those guys are out, then you almost feel like it's my time to shine and show why I should be here, because they're not there to soak up the spotlight, I guess, essentially.
Yeah, but it's not so much on the field. I think it's more so behind the scenes, more so, and that doesn't go away when they play because when the young guys don't play and everybody when Leo plays, all the four play and we play our strongest lineup, it's still a sense of trying to keep them engaged, right? And but when they do start, then obviously we got to make sure that we're ready to go and that that's where I feel like my experience can come in and I've been around the league. I've seen young guys develop. I've seen them go to Bundesliga teams. I've seen them sit on the bench a couple of years as well. So I've seen a lot of different perspectives throughout my career, and I want to say that I can try and help those guys as much as I can, and that's certainly what I try and do. And yeah, against DC it worked, and we were able to win.
And it looks like, at least, you might be in that position for a little bit longer, because there's obviously this conspiracy theory that goes around, like, every time Lionel Messi sits out a match, that it's some sort of like they're trying to defraud the ticket holders or something, and he's just resting. But obviously, I don't want to. I mean, we're not trying to get Julian in trouble here, but he is actually injured, right? Like these are legitimate situations that happened, and those conspiracy theories are kind of like unfounded, frustrated people that just wanted to see him play. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think before this weekend, maybe there was a little bit of a doubt, like you're saying, but I think now that he's also missing the Argentina games, and I think the Argentinian Federation also made a statement today that he will miss the two games they had planned in the U.S. Um, that he will miss those due to injury. That's really all I know too. I don't know how long he will be out after that. I don't know how long, if he will be out after that. I certainly hope that he will be back soon, especially for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, matchup against Monterrey. I think obviously that's a big one, but um, injuries are part of the game. Injuries happen, and they can happen to the greatest player that has ever played the game as well. So that's something that, yeah, we just have to deal with, and all the fans have to deal with, unfortunately, as well. Where now he misses the games against Argentina, and obviously that means he misses a game for us as well against the Red Bulls. And then anything after that, we'll kind of see what how he feels, because I think that's the most important thing. You don't want to risk anything and risk him being out longer than just a couple or 10 days or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it might end up being. You don't want him to be out 4, 6, 8 weeks, and that's, I think, the biggest thing, where you got to manage it, and Leo knows his body best. So he will make sure that when he's stepping back on the field, that he's 100% ready to go to help us again.
And the Red Bull game, which is this weekend, it shows off a really weird what's the word, idiosyncrasy in the way MLS does things, because it's right in the middle of an international break. Now, as somebody that actually enjoys like international breaks, usually for the competitions that are going on, like I think Nations League is going down, and that's going to be really exciting in CONCACAF. Why is MLS just plays right through every international break? Just no, like, blinders on right through.
So I think there is, every team before the season starts gets to choose if they want to play through it and how many they want to play through, and to limit their schedule congestion, so they don't have to play as many Saturday games. So you get to option to play through some of those weekends. So it's not, I think, every team that plays. Don't 100% quote me on this.
No, you're only saying it on a podcast. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But fact check me, I guess.
I find it interesting that it's like it makes sense that you wouldn't 100% know either, but it is always interesting to hear somebody that's like involved in it be like, yeah, I think this is how it works. I don't know. I just have a game to play.
Yeah. I mean, it says that I have a game, so I better show up and play. But it's I obviously don't like it, because you miss players. The other team misses players, and it's supposed to be an international break. That's how it is the rest of the world. But with all those competitions that we have going on, especially later on in the summer with the Leagues Cup and all those things, that's, I guess, the only way to fit in all these games. So yeah, we're playing through it. We're obviously missing a couple of guys, and yeah, we'll just see how it goes.
If you guys started talking about the CONCACAF Champions League matchup yet, I know you were hoping Messi would be back for it, but Monterrey in the quarterfinal, that's going to be kind of a whole different beast from Nashville, no?
Oh yeah, I think that'll be a really exciting game. I'm looking forward to that a lot. But we also have two MLS games before then. So it's a couple weeks away. Where honestly now I'm just happy we got a couple days off and we got to rest a little bit, just because early on in the season to have these back-to-back weeks is really difficult. And knowing that's coming up again, knowing that we obviously made it out of that round and now in the quarterfinals against Monterrey, which is a really good team, an exciting matchup where we can, I think, showcase kind of what our ambition is, and hopefully come out on top is something cool. And I'm looking forward to that. You want those matchups against Mexican teams. I think everybody's in the CONCACAF region is looking forward to this. So it'll be exciting, but we can preview that a little bit later on in another episode.
Yeah, we will. And I'm
Um,
excited for it because I think they might have the coolest stadium. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
I've played
Monterrey's
there.
one.
I've
Oh,
played
dude!
there. Yeah.
When did you play there? I know we're preview the matchup later, but when did you play in Monterrey? Because that stadium, if you have not seen it, and your ears are here right now, please
Yeah.
go look it up because it's a World Cup arena. But when did you play there?
So I have to rephrase. I didn't play there because I was injured. I was there watching the game.
Oh,
But we were there in 2019 with Atlanta United. We played them in the second round of the CONCACAF Champions League as well, and we lost there 3-0. So
oh,
I was up in the stands. I didn't watch. I didn't play because I hurt my ankle the day before. Um, but certainly want to go there and yeah, and obviously do better than what we did last time with better than 3-0.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was
So
only 3-0 because you didn't play. I'll go.
yeah,
I'll say it.
there you
I know
go.
you don't want to, but and you'll be going back with an improved knowledge of the Spanish language because we actually had a very funny interaction. I think it was on social media, which I know, given my profession, this is a stupid thing to say, but I'm pretty bad at keeping up with. And it was from like these language apps that there was a whole article about you in Yahoo Sports and how I need to make sure I get the quote. I'm trying to find it over here. How you turned your car into a Spanish school on wheels on the way to training every day. Now I'm just gonna open up the floor for you, basically Duolingoing your way into being able to talk to the Spanish contingent on Inter Miami. And how's that going?
Sí, claro, claro, claro.
Ah,
No, but yeah, it's 1,000 days, 1,000 days of Duolingo.
wow.
Yes, it's a long time before me coming to Miami, and now it's finally paying off a little bit. But yeah, no, it's just something that I kind of kept up with throughout the years. Something that I do every day, 5 minutes, Duolingo lesson, just to keep my mind sharp a little bit, think of something else. It's almost like a meditation in a sense where you just forget the world and you do some Spanish. But now it's obviously become a lot more serious that I'm in Miami and within the locker room, there's more Spanish speakers than English speakers. So
Wow.
you hear it every day. You're within that culture and within that language, embedded in a sense. And I want to learn. I want to know what they're talking about. I want to speak as well. For now, I can understand pretty well, but speaking still is kind of missing some vocabulary. But I've now also upgraded to Babbel, so I'm doing Duolingo and
Uh-huh.
Babbel. So shout out to both of those companies. And yeah, well, like I said, it's a lesson that I'm just trying to learn when I'm in the car. There's podcasts when I'm on my phone in the ice bath, for example. I sometimes do actual lessons on my phone. But yeah, that's it. I'm trying to, like I said, trying to speak, trying to learn. And how we talked about Messi speaking English to me a few weeks ago. There have been instances where I've spoken Spanish to him. So, but he doesn't talk about it on his podcast because he doesn't have one.
Yeah. Oh, darn. Yeah. Have you
Uh,
ever surprised him by speaking Spanish to him? Like you said something and he just went, wait a second.
yeah, I don't know if I should. Yeah, I mean, I should say this honestly, but so obviously DeAndre Eden left, right? And remember how we talked about he would always speak in the team huddle before the game. So Leo actually asked me to speak in the team huddle before now instead of Yedlin, which is
Really?
obviously a huge honor for me, right? I was like, he came up to me in English, said this again in English. He was like,
Yo.
you speak in to the team. I was like, yes, okay, sounds good. Then obviously you're like, oh, what are you going to say to these guys, right?
Uh,
But as we talked about before, he was he was speaking in the locker room, and then I spoke on the field, just a quick little let's go, type of thing. But on the last game, and the game against Nashville, the second leg, obviously I did that there as well, and I said something in Spanish. So I just said in Spanish, I said, let's win the first 5 minutes, and then we're going to win the game. And then just like, let's go. Like, it's super quick, super simple. Let's go. And then we scored after 7 minutes. So I was like, oh, it wasn't quite 5 minutes, but we scored after 7. So I felt pretty good about my pregame speech.
Yeah, I'll take that. So Messi asked you to give the pregame speech, and you then delivered a goal in 7 minutes with your pregame speech in a Champions Cup match.
Yeah, but he asked me before the first leg, the first time.
Oh, so now you're anointed every time now as somebody that gets the group together. And
yeah, if I'm on the field, and yeah, just like the last little as we're on the field, just right before kickoff. That's kind of what he asked me to do, to just a little shot there on the field, which it's a cool moment when he comes up to you and he asks you to say something to the team, where he felt like he said everything in that moment already, and to kind of give me that honor and to kind of have the trust from him and me is something that obviously is a great feeling, and something where that shows me, okay, I've kind of done the right things over the last few months to earn his trust and to earn their trust, and to then pay it back with a little bit of Spanish. He thought it was he thought it was funny, and he laughed a little bit.
Yes. Like to say, just to clear the whole thing up, we now have a situation where Lionel Messi is telling you in English to give a pregame speech, which you are then delivering in Spanish.
Yes.
Okay. I was just thinking that. Yeah, we're living. We've completely reversed the space-time continuum at that point. But are you going to start giving longer team talks in Spanish by the end of the season after your 1,000 days of getting haunted by the Duolingo owl?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I want to have more conversations. I want to have more talks. In those moments, it's always difficult because I like to have it still spontaneous and be somewhat emotional. So I don't want it to be like, okay, 2 days before or a day before, I'm gonna translate it, what I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna like script it off. I think that that takes away from that pregame moment a little bit, where I want it to be, yeah, just intuitive in a sense, where in that moment in the Nashville game, I just felt like we needed to have a good start. So I was like, okay, let's win the first 5 minutes, because we didn't have a good start the couple days or 3 games before. So I was like, okay, we need to have a good start, and we had a good start, and we won the game, and everything came true.
I mean, shoot, you guys are in the quarterfinal, and do you ever have nightmares about the Duolingo owl? Have there ever been times where it popped up on you and you just really dreaded its existence?
Honestly, not really. No, if I've missed it, I've certainly missed a couple of days. Then it just freezes. Thankfully, but yeah, no, I'm paying for it, which also makes me more. I feel like I have more ownership of it. I need to do it because I'm paying for it. There's I think a reasoning behind that. Same thing with Babbel. I need to learn because I'm paying for it. Why would I waste the money on that? Type of thing if I don't do it. That's kind of the reasoning behind it. But do you learn any languages can you do that on Football Manager?
Well, yeah, your character can.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But there's some like idiosyncrasies that happen, right? So for those that are obviously I make YouTube videos about football, but I play a lot of Football Manager, and got pretty good at it. And so I remember I went to South Africa. I think most recent save. I went to South Africa, which they speak English there, far as I know and am concerned. But I ended up at a team called Black Leopards FC, which is in a corner of South Africa where there's apparently also an indigenous language. And so I was then asked by the board before they hired me whether I would be able to adapt to the new language that I would have to learn. And I was going to South Africa, so that prompted a crisis where I thought I'd misunderstood where I was going in the first place. But no, then if you learn languages way faster in Football Manager than you do in real life, because I know for a fact, if I moved to Black Leopards FC in real life, I would not learn that indigenous language in 9 months. But in the game, I was fluent in 9 months in the language, and then you just keep it too. That's the other thing, is I took 10 years of Spanish growing up, and most of it is gone. Right? You have to like maintain it, and I certainly did not. Not that not that I was ever obloing too much Espanol to begin with, but I didn't maintain it well enough. In Football Manager, you can become like a polyglot, I think the word is, where you just start everywhere you manage, you learn the language in like 9 months. You just become fluent. Okay. But you can have issues. This is actually something I've always wanted to ask. There's a feature in the game in Football Manager where you can send a player on an intensive language course when you sign them. And is that real? Like for example, if you sign a player that doesn't speak any Spanish joining Inter Miami, would they like sign them up for a Spanish class to help?
I asked for that to see if they would have a Spanish tutor come in, and I think they had somebody there last year that would do both. So they would do, the English speakers would learn Spanish and the Spanish speakers would learn English. So you can sign up. You don't have to. They don't send you on this intensive course like they do in Football Manager.
Okay, yeah. It also costs $25,000 in the game, which is obscene. Yeah, so we're hiring like the world's best tutors here, but
that would be nice. You have to ask the officials from the club to see how much that is, but that is, I would certainly sign up for some Spanish classes for sure. But again, being in the building is like a Spanish class already, where you hear Spanish everywhere. And if you listen intentionally, which is what I try and do, then you pick up a lot of things. You learn a lot of the grammar and a lot of the vocabulary, obviously, but you get the gist of kind of what they're talking about pretty quickly. And if you just go through the motions and you kind of just tune everything out and don't actually listen, you're not going to learn either. But I've tried to listen and try to tune in, and then see if I understood correctly once the translation comes. And then you kind of teach yourself that way while also learning about the next opponent.
Yeah. It's like hooked on phonics tactics session style almost.
Yes, but I wanted to ask you a question here. I know we're kind of wrapping up or coming towards the end, but I'm sure you saw the goal that Kellen Acosta scored in Chicago.
Here comes Chicago one more time. Acosta forward. And it's an open moment. Oh my word! Chicago Fire have won it!
From his own half! That Chicago wind with some home cooking there.
Oh, okay. Can I tell you my hot take? So
yeah, go ahead.
I played goalkeeper in high school, and while you are obviously way better than me at all football related things, as a goalkeeper, I don't actually blame the goalkeeper in that situation. Am I wrong in thinking that? Because if you've seen this Kellen Acosta goal that Julian just asked me about, it is the most absurd goal. The ball goes up in the air. He's trying to just play the ball forward aimlessly, and then it gets caught in a jet stream and just flies into the back of the net. I can't. I know the goalkeeper is the one that ends up looking like an idiot there, but I struggle to blame him. Like, that is the way that ball moved is unnatural. Like, there's some angels in the outfield nonsense going on there.
I mean, absolutely. I think that ball gained 30 yards in the air. It was just going to fall dead down, and then all of a sudden you can just see it get faster and faster and faster, and just like a rocket almost just shoot over towards the goal. Only in MLS.
only in MLS. I saw somebody losing their mind because they were like, why is MLS promoting this? It seems like,
exactly.
I'm like, why is MLS promoting this? This stuff only happens in MLS. I don't know. It's because it's one of the only leagues where you've got games happening in Salt Lake City where there's 5 feet of snow. And we talked about that game and how absurd that was. And then you've got, the Windy City where things like that can just happen. And then you're playing in a swamp in Miami and everything in between. I think the diversity of the league and that sort of stuff is great. But if you concede that goal, I don't know how you emotionally come back from that, because that game was 3-3 with 5 seconds before the guy blows the whistle. when Kellen Acosta scores.
Well, I think Montreal was up 3-1 with like 10 minutes to go, and they lost 4-3 on that goal in the last minute. Yeah. So it was like a total implosion at the end there. But yeah, I mean, on that goal, I honestly kind of just got to take it for what it is and just be like, whatever. Like, whatever. Just forget about it. That's something that's such an anomaly that happens that is just like, it's just, yeah, sure. We'll watch the goal and everybody will talk about it, but let's just move on. And this doesn't have anything to do with us as a team. This doesn't have anything to do with me as a person. If that's a goalkeeper, for example, but I'm so much better than that, and that's just something that, God willing, that ball went in.
Yeah. That's that is one of the most divine intervention looking goals that anybody could ever conjure up. Like, Thor himself decided the ball was going in the back of the net, and there was nothing you could do about it. I promised we were going to get to some fan questions, though. So we do have one. It came in on Instagram from, I want to make sure I get this right, from EKAG, so EKAG67. And this is a very important question, very intense, very deep. If you guys swap jobs, who would be found out as a fraud sooner?
So I have a question for this one, because what is your actual job description?
That's a very good question. So my grandmother actually asked this question, which is a very fair question to ask their grandson. And I said I was a streamer. Like, I streamed video games. And she sat there and thought about it for a moment. And then she went, "Oh, you stream like on Netflix?" And I was like, okay, this is going to be a little more difficult than I thought. So she used to, I tried. I thought I'd explained it well enough, but she used to send me like newspaper clippings of stories about Netflix, and she's like, "This may have to do with work," and would just send it to me. So I've had difficulties explaining what I do in the past. Essentially, what I do on like my normal day is I'll wake up and I'll go live on Twitch, and I'll play Football Manager for like 4 or 5 hours. And basically, I let people in on the secret here. People think that they watch because I am good at Football Manager. I'm really just good at Football Manager because I'm addicted to the game and I play it all the time. People just kind of come in to hang out and have a good time and follow the story of the team and everything. And it's almost like an episodic experience. And then I'll finish that. And then I am usually somehow caught in meetings, as I'm sure you can relate to, with just various entities. And then I record a YouTube video, which will usually entail me coming up with an idea, partnering up with somebody to execute it, and then recording it. I realized that was the super short explanation you were looking for. And then every once in a while, I get pinged to record a podcast with you, and then so I also do that. So my job description, I believe, is YouTuber, but basically I just talk into a camera like this with lights on and a microphone like all day with people watching. So what do you think?
I mean, based off how we started this podcast, remember I couldn't even like do the basic technical things that required us to, like, me sending you a picture or something or uploading a picture. And I was like, so the technical part of kind of technology and setting all this up and going live on Twitch and like all these things, I'm like, I would have such a hard time doing that. So I feel like I would probably be found out as a fraud sooner.
Oh no!
But then I would feel like I would figure it out. I would be able to figure it out. I was going to
say, you can figure it out. You're being too kind. You know what I couldn't figure out? Being a professional soccer player. I could not figure that out. Okay. If I could do that, I would be doing that, right? Like I know you would, sure. Yeah. The first week you probably wouldn't go live, but once you figured out how to make all that thing, you're being very kind. There's only one answer to Ekaj 67's question. No matter what my job is, whether I'm streaming on Netflix or not, I think I would be found out as the fraud sooner. But I will have you know, I was third team all district as a goalkeeper in high school, and we went to the state championship game, and we lost.
And you ran a half marathon, which I've never done either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could probably do it tomorrow, but I appreciate you let me have that one. But I've enjoyed as far as my grandma's concerned, in case she's listening, I don't want to really spoil this for her, but I've enjoyed my streaming career on Netflix. And I got word, and I'm only bringing this up because I found it very interesting, because I love these shows, that you might also be on Netflix, because if you've ever seen Drive to Survive, or if you've ever seen Break Point, which is the tennis one, and then you've got the Full Swing, which is the golf one. Netflix is making those TV series about sports. Apparently, they're making one about MLS now, if I understand it right.
Yes, they are. They are, and they have been with us a couple times. They were there for the big LA trip that we had, where you can see the big cameras at training. Nobody was mic'd up or anything in training as of yet. We didn't have any interviews as of yet, but you certainly see that they're around, especially I remember at the game in LA. I think they were obviously filming Ricky Puig and kind of his Barcelona connection with Busquets and Jordi Alba and Messi and how he was there with them. But then I remember them like standing like in the middle of our warm up, like actually like in the middle of it, like in the way. So Yassine, which we talked about, last week, he was like
Messi's bodyguard. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. He was like coming out and he was like, "Hey guys, like, come on, give it a little bit of space here." And the assistant coaches were also like moving them away a little bit. So they're getting up close. They're getting tight. They're trying to get all the shots and all the action. And I'm certainly interesting to see, because it's a big league, right? MLS is huge. A lot of teams, a lot of different cities on every weekend where there could be potential storylines. So we'll see how it turns out. But maybe I'll get a feature. Maybe I don't. Hopefully our podcast will get a feature. That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And an entire episode of the show is this is what Julian Gressel does in his free time. Yeah. The podcast is just all over it. Now, I mean, yeah, if I'm writing in my dream journal, that works. But man, I love those shows. Have you ever watched like Drive to Survive?
I have, yeah. That was obviously the first one I think that came out, and that I grew up watching Formula One. In Germany, it was a big deal, so we watched a lot of it, and to see kind of the inner works of that and how competitive it really is, even within a team, is really, really cool to see. And yeah, every time there's a new season, I'm immediately on that. And then obviously I'm a big golf fan as well, so Full Swing, something I watched just now as well. I think the new season just came out.
I'm not even kidding. I just noticed that today, and totally unrelated to the fact that we might talk about it on the podcast today. I watched the first episode of season 2 of Full Swing like 3 hours ago. I was sitting here eating, just watching an episode of Full Swing. It's good. They're talking all about the like live golf stuff and all that nonsense, which I imagine that they're going to try and pick at the threads in the MLS one as well. But that's what makes those shows. It makes them fun. Are you almost nervous for if they do sit you down for an interview, because those can end up kind of plastered all over the place?
I mean, I won't be more nervous than I am now.
Oh, are you nervous? We're recording podcasts, Julian. Be honest.
No,
okay.
I'm not. But no, I'm pretty confident, and I want to say I'm a veteran at this point in doing media appearances. So I think I'd be honored if they asked me. Honestly, they have every player to choose from in this league, and they would choose me. So we'll see. But obviously, I play on a pretty high profile team that obviously has a lot of eyes on it. So I'm sure we'll get a few features on us, and I'm sure they'll follow us around a bit more this season. Hopefully, as we obviously are very successful as well, and we can win a lot more games to make it a good one to show.
Yeah. Well, I think the show would be, if you could, just for the plot, go ahead and win MLS and the Champions Cup and the Leagues Cup again. I think that would, just for the plot, if no other reason.
We'll try. Not just for that. We'll try, but I'm sure they'll be happy as well. Yeah.
All right, we got distracted. There was one other fan question that we pulled to get to, and that is from @_Abdu24. And they asked 3 changes you'd make to MLS to make it more entertaining and popular. I'll go ahead and take number 1, promotion and relegation. You can take the other 2. I know it'll never happen. I know it'll never happen. I'm not trying to rewrite the whole structure of the league in order to make it happen. But the question's simple. What would make it more entertaining? I think promotion and relegation just inherently makes it more entertaining. You have two.
That's a bomb you're just leaving like that. That's incredible.
I've been to MLS studios. I've talked to the people. I know how hard it would be to actually ever have that happen, and it wouldn't happen for a long time. But I do think it would make the league more entertaining. It just makes the bottom of the league more entertaining. I know that's not a part of the league that you guys concern yourselves with, but
I see that. Well, hopefully not. Yeah, but I see that. I think what will make it more entertaining is obviously getting better players, right? And more better players, like the likes of superstars, and but also young, entertaining players that come from South America. Right now, you get a chance to maybe sign 5, 6, 7 of those guys, and why not broaden that a little bit? So loosen spending a little bit and trying to get better players to come to this league, and then I don't know. Honestly,
we need one more.
Yeah, the third one, I don't know. I mean, I like the playoff format, for example. I like how there's always narratives around the end of the year. And I think the league is trying to add, obviously, competition with Liga MX, with the Leagues Cup, and all those types of things. So,
and I want to be clear. I because of the semantics of the question, I don't think I can say this. I do think the U.S. Open Cup should still be a thing. I know MLS is trying to pull teams out of it. I know that the question is what would make MLS more popular, and the U.S. Open Cup is technically not in MLS. But just in case somebody brings it up or somebody's thinking it, I am a huge proponent of something like the U.S. Open Cup staying relevant. But
let me put my take on this, because I think it's obviously a topic that I think is obviously dear to a lot of U.S. fans that have been.
Can I give it the background before you dive in on it? Okay, so basically, what happened is the U.S. Open Cup is the FA Cup of the United States, and the MLS. I got made fun of by Andrew Wiebe for saying the MLS. MLS decided that it was too bad for fixture congestion, even though it's been contested for 100 years, and is pulling most senior teams out of the U.S. Open Cup. Julian, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I do think every MLS team should be part of the U.S. Open Cup. I know this is, just how it is in years past. I like the format. I like how it is rooted in, I don't know, the most historic tournament, I think, in this country. And I think that's what I think the game needs, in a sense. A little bit of history, because it is such a sport that's played around the world for so long, and to have that tournament as being the staple of the history of this competition in the US, I think, is a big thing, where the top teams should be all included, and every team, in my opinion, should be able to choose how they approach that tournament. If they want to approach that tournament with their second team, with their third stringers, with whatever, with youth players, whatever they want, then they can do that. However they choose, but to completely, I think, take it out of the club's hands, in my opinion, is a little bit sad. Just because I have won it before, so it's something that I enjoyed a lot, playing in it. Once you get through those later rounds, it's something that it's a trophy you try and win. And now I think only 5 or 6 MLS teams get the chance to do that. So it's something that I think every team should have been able to handle themselves. And if like I said, if my Inter Miami thinks that it's too much on the schedule, for example, then okay, they could have decided to play the second team, play the third team, give youth guys some minutes, and those are valuable minutes too for those guys. So something that I think, maybe or hopefully will come back in the future, and this will just be a year that will be seen as an outlier, and we can kind of return to the normal U.S. Open Cup as we've known it in years past.
I could not agree more, all the way down the line with everything that you said. And I do hope it comes back. And the U.S. already struggles with kind of historical anchoring when it comes to soccer. So I just find it foolish to kind of cut ties with the one thing that is super historical with U.S. soccer. But to actually attempt to answer the question and come up with something inside MLS, I'm going to go with perhaps a hotter take. You remember those old PKs they used to have? The running stars.
I love them.
Bring those back. Those are better than actual PKs in my opinion, because actual PKs are just a bit more of a lottery than that. There's so many more options when you have that running start penalty kick they used to have in MLS. Bring that back.
I love that, because you would just embrace how you're different from the world, right? From the world of soccer, by bringing those back, by having playoffs, by all these types of things. You're just a different league. And yeah, I mean, I see those videos and I'm like, man, this is a cool way to be different and to be more engaging and entertaining. And yeah, so I don't think it'll ever happen, but we'll see.
No. That will almost certainly never happen, but God, it'd be so. If at least at the All-Star game or something, those maiden appearances like a skill game, that would be so fun. But
Yeah.
that's all. That's all the time we have for today. If you are listening, wherever you're listening, please do subscribe, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also, it's free of charge. You can share this podcast with your friend, your parents, your grandparents. It's all free. And we would appreciate it, because the more you do that, the more that we are able to record more of these. Julian, is there anything that the good people listening should look out for on your side?
No, just here, getting through another week, playing at the Red Bulls over the weekend. But at the end, I want to give a shout out to Rhode Island. Rhode Island FC, they had their first game. Obviously, a state that's very dear to my heart. We go into Providence College. I'm wearing their kit right now, and I know they a proud state, having their first professional soccer team there in USL just starting. So go support them, and I hopefully will be able to go to a game. But appreciate all the listeners, and see you guys next time.
Oh, Julian's adopted home state. Beautiful. Smallest state, new biggest club, though. Rhode Island FC. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time. I believe it would be appropriate to say adios. Adios.